This is Weights and Wealth, your one-stop shop for entertaining education on building a stronger body and bank account.
We are not doctors or financial advisors and must warn you this is not medical or investing advice. It is for your entertainment. This week's wealth wisdom is that money and time are tightly related. So a good way to kind of think about how much things actually cost is how much time it takes you to earn that amount of money. So a car, for example, it's a very good example because if you're spending $30,000 on a car and you make $50,000 a year after tax, that takes you 60% of a year to fully pay for that car. And during that time, you're not paying for food, rent, anything like that. So it just kind of puts in perspective how much time it really takes to buy something.
On to the intro article. We got this article from Rob Wolf. He wrote actually one of the books in the Weights and Wealth book club, Sacred Cow, along with Diana Rogers. Highly recommend you check that book out. But Rob Wolf has been shadow banned several times on Instagram, meaning he's probably giving out good information. You should follow him. But he posted an article written by Dr. Joseph Mercola on lab-grown meat and the environmental effects of lab-grown meat. So this is really interesting because the main reason that people are pushing for lab-grown meat to be consumed by Americans instead of normal meat from animals that live their life is that people think that normal animals and beef contribute a lot of CO2 and methane and contribute to global warming. That is not really the case, especially if you look at regenerative agriculture, where the animals actually live naturally and live outside and are pasture raised instead of the conventional farming where they're all packed into cages. But like the studies that have been done on white oak pastures, for example, or polyface farms show that they're actually a net carbon sink, and that over the lifetime of the animal, there's more CO2 sequestered into the ground than released into the atmosphere because of how the animals roaming around on the ground and pooping on the ground, and how more water is able to infiltrate the ground because it becomes more permeable. These things all combine for a healthier ecosystem and actually act as a net carbon sink. Now, the fake meat industry and lab-grown meat actually produces 25 times more CO2, according to this UC Davis study, than traditional animal husbandry. So this kind of gets rid of the quote-unquote, from the article, core ideological foundation upon which the industry is built. And that just goes to show that lab-grown meat probably isn't better for the environment than typical normal animals, like real animals, real meat. Mm-hmm. And this isn't the first time we've seen this. The same thing actually occurs with something like almond milk. Just to make a gallon of almond milk requires something crazy. I can't remember, but I think it's something around 50 gallons of water to create 1 gallon of almond milk. So these alternatives to animal-based products are very often worse for the environment than the real animal product itself. So just something to be aware of if you are buying these fake meat products or these animal substitutes, thinking that you are helping to save the environment. You're actually probably doing more damage than if you just ate meat or drank milk, etc.
Mm-hmm. All right, so getting into today's topic, it is about planting 5 trees. And now, if you don't know what that means, I didn't either for the first month that Ted was telling me about this episode. And I kept saying, what does it mean? What does it mean? And he's like, dude, just plant 5 trees.
I just kept telling Nick to go out and plant a tree. And he had no idea what I meant. And I kept getting closer and closer to the metaphor, and he still didn't get it. And then I eventually told him the old Chinese proverb, which is, The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So sorry, Nick, for frustrating you for a month, but I had a fun time with it.
Yeah, but so the 5 trees are the 5 Fs. So Ted and I each came up with something for one of the 5 Fs that you can just start doing now, just to plant your first few trees. Mm-hmm. So the first one is faith. Ted, do you want to give yours?
Yeah. Before we jump into this, planting a tree, trees take a while to grow, right? So the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago so that it would be fully grown now. The second best time is now because the more you keep delaying, the longer it's going to take for you to reap the benefits, right? So each of these things that Nick and I came up with, these good trees to plant for each of the 5 Fs, are things that will reap you many benefits down the road, and they'll be very advantageous to that F and the rest of your life if you start doing it now. So I guess first things first on mine, Nick and I obviously are Christian, and on this show we typically, when we talk about faith, talk about Christianity and the Bible because that is our faith. However, if you are listening to the show and you are not Christian, I would say substitute the Bible with the Quran or the Torah or etc. Because I still think that even if you don't believe in exactly the same things I believe in, it's still going to be beneficial to your life and your community if you are a man of God. So my suggestion for faith is read the whole Bible. Just do it. Just start reading the Bible and read it front to back, and you'll learn so much when you do that, and you can keep doing it for the rest of your life. It's a long book and there's a lot to learn, but just get started and read it cover to cover and see what you learn. You'll learn a lot. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mine is to just start going to church. You know, it puts you in a good community. Most people at church are, you know, they live their lives very well. They're very moral people. And then it also gives you an opportunity to learn what people who have heavily studied the Bible have to say about it, you know, kind of get a more expert opinion on it.
Yeah, I might say that I guess it would be fun, Nick, if maybe we deliberated real quick after each of these and see whose is better, which is a better tree to plant. I can see how yours would be better because it's much easier to get started just going to church. Much easier to get started going to church than the daunting task of reading the whole Bible, right? Mm-hmm. But then you could also say that mine is better because what if you go to a church that doesn't teach the Bible? You know, what if you wind up going to a like progressive Christianity church that's false teaching? You know?
Yeah, that's true. So it definitely is important to vet the church that you're going to make sure that they are preaching proper topics.
It's hard to do that if you haven't read the Bible.
That is true. Yeah.
So chicken or egg scenario, I guess we've got here.
Or if you have somebody that you look up to and you think that, and you like the way that they live and you want to be more like them, you can go to them with church or go with them to church.
That's a great idea. All right. First point goes to Nick. All right. The next one is finance. So I'll let Nick start on this one.
So this one is learning how markets work, aka economics. It teaches you to think logically, and the way at least economics is taught on the base level, it is very logical.
Supply and demand.
Supply and demand, yes. But these things all are kind of, it assumes that people think rationally, and a lot of the times people don't think rationally. So as you progress in it, it really becomes more of a social science and learning how people react in certain situations. So if you start learning economics and you kind of understand how markets work, it becomes a little bit easier. I mean, there are so many factors and even the best economists are wrong, but it gives you an idea of what's going on in the greater economy and where it's going and how you might be able to take advantage of that.
And my tree to plant for finance is to just start automate investing. Create allotments for yourself out of your paycheck, out of your direct deposit, and then just start dollar cost averaging in. So that means what you could do is every week you could put a certain amount into like an index fund or an ETF. And if you average yourself in over time, you wind up reducing the chance that you put all your money in and then it crashes the next day, right? So dollar cost averaging is a very effective strategy, and it basically just means splitting up your money you're investing into small chunks and doing it periodically. So my tree to plant is to just start automate your investing. I think this point goes to me, Nick.
Yeah, I think so too. It's a very easy tree to plant because you just got to plant it and then you don't have to water it. You know, economics, you got to keep learning, you got to keep watering it.
It's true.
And keep getting, yeah.
All right, on to the third one. We've got fitness. Nick, I'm going to let you go first here because the one that I wrote down as a joke and never went back and changed it. So I got to think of a new one right now.
Okay, so mine's very lifestyle based. And on our episode with Lexi, we talked about that it's important to know what is in your products and also what is not in your products. So eating whole foods, you don't get a lot of the fillers. I know Ted mentioned that anything with gum in it, you probably shouldn't be eating it. And then also to look at your basic personal care products. There's a lot of debate about fluoride in toothpaste. And I know a lot of the personal care products we use have parabens and fragrances and basically they disrupt your hormones.
Aluminum and deodorant. Yeah, there's a lot of things, and I mean, there's a lot of brands out there now where it's really easy to cut some of these key offenders out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so look for the paraben-free, or better yet, find a good company like the Van Man company that sells only quality products that don't have any of these chemicals or toxins in them.
Mm-hmm. Van Man, potential future guest.
He is
on Weights and Wealth.
Potential future guest.
Oh, we forgot to do that for Rob Wolf.
Oh, Rob Wolf.
Potential future guest. All right, mine for fitness. I'm thinking of two right now. My initial joke I wrote down was load up the needle, but it's just a joke. Nick and I are both natty for life. So.
Forever natty.
Yeah. But my two that I'm coming up with right now are shooting for 10,000 steps a day, because that will make you an active person. And then the other one would be just to buy a kettlebell and start doing basic compound movements with a kettlebell. You can just do it in your home. That doesn't even require you to get a gym membership. If you buy a 30-pound kettlebell for $30, you can do all kinds of goblet squats and kettlebell swings and even one-arm shoulder presses with that one kettlebell. And you can just make a little routine that you do every day or every other day. That's a very simple way to start getting yourself into resistance training. And you don't really have to worry about hurting yourself, spending money at a gym. It's pretty simple. So out of those two, I don't know. I feel like being sedentary is really bad. So I'm going to shoot with, I guess the best tree you can plant is start getting at least 10,000 steps a day, just because people are so sedentary.
Okay.
What do you think, Nick?
I don't know.
I feel
it's a hard one because I mean they're both very important too. Yeah. All right. Is that one a tie?
Go with a tie.
Yeah, all right.
Yep. 1-1.
Well, yep. All right. The next one is family. The one I have for this is to keep in touch with your parents. Now, a lot of kids at some point go through a tough time with their parents where they're butting heads over stuff. Or they look at a way that their parents raised them and they don't like it. And that kind of causes like conflict between them and their parents. But two things. I would encourage you to look at the good things that your parents did, the values they instilled in you, or really anything, because I mean,
it's over now, so you might as well look at the positives.
Yeah. And then you also have to realize that your parents are people too. And I haven't raised kids, but I can tell that especially when I had younger when my siblings were very little, that they were stressed out all the time, and that people make mistakes, and you can't expect your parents to be perfect, even though when you were a kid, that's what a lot of kids think.
I feel like you have crash course in parenting because, so for those of you who don't know, he's the oldest of 8. So he has 7 younger siblings. And I remember when I went over to his house after freshman year of college, and his youngest sister was like a baby then. Like they called her Baby.
Yeah.
She was like
She still has that name too.
Yeah. But I mean, now she's like 8 years old or something like that. So
yeah, she's 8. So she would have been, I think, 2 when you came to visit because she was born my junior year of high school.
Okay.
So I think I was 16.
But I feel like because of that, you kind of got a crash course in parenting because since you've been like pretty much an adult, you've seen the evolution of like your parents parenting from a baby all the way up.
And it has changed a lot. So
Yeah.
I was the guinea pig and they tested everything on me.
Nick, can you say family one more time, but in a deeper voice?
Family.
Yeah. Okay. Now we can put the Dom Toretto over you in the edit as we,
What is that?
Dom Toretto, Fast and Furious.
I've only seen like one Fast and Furious.
It's Vin Diesel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I know who Vin Diesel is.
All right. Mine was find the ones you can't be without and go all in. So this is more related to finding your spouse, I guess, and then also to a lesser extent finding friends. So find the people that you want to surround yourself for the rest of your life, and that includes your family you were born with, right? Like if you love your parents and your siblings, go all in on making them a big part of your life, right? So I guess I wrote down this one because when we were doing the outline, it was probably 3 weeks pre-wedding. So
Yeah. I mean, I would definitely say yours takes that one. I mean, your spouse should be your priority in life, the number one person.
Yep, I agree.
So
yeah, and you should always focus on like going 100% all in on that relationship and trying not to let anything strain that relationship.
yeah, and just make sure when you are dating someone, because this is something that I made a mistake with in past with past girlfriends, is that you need to, even though you've been together a while, you should focus on spending quality time, because it's easy to start to think that that person will always be there for you, which they likely will, but you should still make them the priority and not rely on that fact and start putting other people ahead of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you always want to pretend like you are trying to win them, and like if you had to ask them to marry you every year, would they say yes, right? Are you doing that good of a job of like caring for them and loving them that they would want to marry you every single year?
Yep. And the last one is freedom.
All right. Mine is short and Nick's is long, so I'll go first. Mine is hold the line. Study where that line should be. Make sure that if it's a hill you're going to die on, that it's a hill worth dying on. Nick and I both held the line through the madness of the past 3 years, so I'm proud of that I didn't compromise on my principles despite threats of losing a job, imprisonment in one case. This got pretty serious, but I knew what, at least to me, what God says in the Bible. I wasn't going to go against his word, and I wasn't going to cave, and I was going to die on that hill. So find your line when it comes to someone really messing with key freedoms, and don't let them take it, is mine.
Yep. It's a very good one. Mine is kind of around civil discourse. I know we've talked about it a couple times before, but to be very open-minded while also very critical of ideas, because this is kind of how you get to the best idea, either through refining yours or changing it completely. And America, in my opinion, it's not close to perfect, but I do think that it is the best country out there because of our values. Biggest one to me is freedom of speech. I think that is immensely important. And
Okay, you got it.
yeah, and basically like the media right now has kind of been going away from that, kind of suppressing ideas. And if you don't allow people to talk about things freely, then you won't be finding the best answer. If you just kind of accept what's being said, that's probably not going to be the best thing.
Yeah, you need to consider all ideas and approach them all with an open mind, or you're not going to find the best idea. I mean, how many times in your life have you changed your mind about a belief that you had? Right,
a lot, like since high school, a lot. Yeah. So I mean, just talk to people who think differently than you. You'll honestly find that most people are coming from a good place. They just want the best outcome. The challenge is figuring out how to get there. And most people, as long as you keep your emotions in check and don't really judge them for what they're saying, I think it's okay to judge somebody's intent. I do. But just try to be as non-judgmental as possible and just kind of talk through things. And I mean, I do think it's unfortunate that the things that you're not supposed to talk about are religion, money, and politics. And those are the three things I like talking about the most. But that's why we can do it on this podcast.
There we go.
So.
All right. I don't know. I almost got to give you the freedom of speech there.
You do?
Yeah. What do you think?
I don't know.
We'll call it a tie. Yeah. That way I still win.
Okay. 2-1. Okay. All right,
guys. Well, we hope that if you haven't planted any of these 10 trees we gave you, maybe you can start planting them today. As the Chinese proverb goes, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now.
Thanks for joining us today at Weights and Wealth. And don't forget to apply today's lessons to live healthy and wealthy.
If this conversation will contribute to your fitness and financial gains, please share it with a friend or family member and give a 5-star review so more people can lift bigger weights and get bigger bank accounts.